Thank you for joining us for this episode of Take Notice, Amplifying Black Stories. I am your host, Allison Preisinger-Heggins. Take Notice, Amplifying Black Stories is a podcast exploring society, culture, and current events through conversation. We aspire to create an open, respectful, and equitable space where guests may feel free to share their truth and lived experiences. Our core values are rooted in community, connection, and personal development. Stories help us learn, relate, and grow. We are here to listen, to take notice. Thank you for being with us. I would like to acknowledge the land on which this episode was created. I would like to show gratitude to the traditional ancestral land of the Coast Salish people, including the Duwamish people past and present, recognizing that these names are not the original names of the people of these areas. I encourage listeners to research the land on which you live and are listening right now. Recognizing this is just the beginning. The more you explore, challenge, and learn, the more questions may arise, but this is how we grow and connect. On this episode of Take Notice, we welcome Larry E. Roberts, Jr. Larry is the owner of 7 barber college locations, including one in the Cook County Department of Corrections and one in a community college. I feel like since we had this conversation in April, he may have more locations by now, so check it out. He also has a retail location inside of Walmart. And from our conversation, it sounds like that is also growing. So Larry is a master of his craft, having started cutting hair at the age of 13. You'll hear about this journey, as well as the opportunities his other talents as a musician and entrepreneur have offered him. We had this conversation, like I said, back in April, and I'm so pleased to finally be able to share it with you as the first episode of the 3rd season of Take Notice. Thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting our guests, and please enjoy this episode with Larry E. Roberts, Jr. All right. Well, good morning, Larry. Thanks for joining me on Take Notice. How are you this morning?
Hey, I'm doing great. And you? Thank you for having me on Take Notice.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you're over in Chicago. Is that, am I right about that?
Yes, Chicago, Illinois.
How long have you been in that area? Is that where you grew up?
Oh, wow. I've been in Chicago. Let me see. I'll be 49 in May. I've been in Chicago for 49 years.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. But
That's
I've been
awesome.
all over the world, though, so we could talk about that later. But yeah, I've been in Chicago for 49 years of my life.
Wow, nice. So you grew up in the area. Who did you grow up surrounded by?
Yeah, my parents, both of my parents, they're still alive. Both of them will actually be 70 years old this year. My dad will be 70 this month in April. My mom will be 70 in July. But my parents, I have a sister. She's 3 years younger than me. Been in the church world all my life. So that's kind of where my mom and my dad met in church because my grandmother was a pastor. So yeah, my grandparents, my family, everybody's here in Chicago. Well, most of the people are here in Chicago.
Yeah. Oh, nice. And still, your sister is still in the area too?
Yep, she's still in Chicago as well.
What does she do now?
So my sister, she used to run my company with me, but she decided to kind of branch off on her own, and she actually has a juice bar inside of LA Fitness, the health club, and she does financial. Yeah, she does financial seminars, and she does insurance. She's kind of like into health and stuff like that. So she has quite a few things going on.
Oh, that's great. When did you get started with your current business? Was it since you were young, you knew what you wanted to do, or?
I started cutting hair when I was 13. And the reason I started cutting hair is because my parents they built a house out in the suburb outside of Chicago, which is Matson, Illinois. And, needless to say, there weren't a lot of people that looked like me out there. So, my ethnicity. So basically, I went and got me some clippers for $19.99 from Walgreens. And, I know how to draw. So I basically picked up the clippers and was determined to be able to give myself a haircut. And when I did that, I offered other people haircuts and told them they had to pay me $3. And if I did a good job, they'd have to pay me. But, if I messed up, I would pay them the $3 in return. But I never had to pay anybody. So that's how everything pretty much got started.
Oh, nice. That's a good deal. Yeah. So when you were 13, so you've been cutting hair since then, huh?
Yeah, I've been cutting hair for 36 years this year. Wow. I make 36 years. I've been cutting hair, and I decided, hey, I told my parents, this is what I want to do. So when I was 17, I was a senior in high school, and I had like all my credits, if you will. So I had a half a day, and at work study, I would leave school and I would go straight to barber school. I asked my parents, I said, hey, this is really what I want to do. I actually had 2 chairs in my in my basement when I was a teenager because I had another buddy cutting hair with me. That's how inundated I was with, the client. We had like literally the whole South suburb sold up. So I went to barber school at 17, and then I opened up my first barbershop when I was 19. So this year I'll be celebrating 30 years that I've been in business.
Wow. Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's not everybody that knows, exactly their dream and their goal that young. So that's remarkable. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So you said that you've gone all around the world. So what's one of the areas that you visited first?
Yeah, so considering the fact that I'm a celebrity barber, so I've cut a lot of the basketball players, baseball, football players, people in Hollywood, but I'm a professional musician as well. So I play keys and drums professionally. I'm a songwriter, and that derived from my dad. My dad used to play organ for a lot of the gospel greats back in the day, if you will. So I got that gift and talent from my dad. And I had the opportunity for free, but I got paid. I had the opportunity to travel all around the world. So I've been places like, I've probably been to Germany about 4 times. I've been to London 3 or 4 times. I've been to Norway. I've been to Australia, Italy about 3 times, British Columbia, and pretty much, most of the states out here in the United States. So I've been there.
Wow.
So, I didn't tour in Hawaii, but I went to Hawaii before. That was a vacation.
Yeah,
but I've pretty much been all over the world.
That's awesome.
Well, I've had the opportunity to play in front of thousands and tens of thousands, but music along with my barbering, because of the fact of, even being on tour, they had to utilize me for getting haircuts and things to that degree. So I've had to go out of town to even, do barbering and things to that degree. So it's kind of like a combination of both the music and what I do that, allowed me to be able to, tour all over the world and go out of town and do those things.
Yeah, that's great. That's exciting. Wow. So I missed asking you, your parents, you said your dad was a musician in the church. Was that his main gig, or what else did he do?
So my dad actually he drove an 18-wheeler. So he drove a pop truck. He worked for Royal Crown Kohler when I was younger. And my dad also had restaurants. So my business aspect came from running my dad's restaurants when I was young. My dad used to have restaurants called Larry's Ribs. And when I was 12 years old, I was, on the stool on my knees, barbecuing ribs. And I used to work 40, 50, 60 hours a week in my dad's restaurants. And,
Wow.
and I did it for free, but it helped me to become the businessman that I am today. So that's what my dad did. My grandmother was the pastor. So my dad started playing at my grandmother's church, which is my mother's mother. He started playing at her church when he was 13 years old. So he met my mom there, and that's how they met. And they got married when they were 20 years old. And then I pop up. But my dad played for a lot of the greats, such as, James Cleveland, Albertina Walker, the Barrett sisters, Inez Andrews, just a lot of the great, older gospel singers back in the day. And, he wrote a lot of popular songs that are out. Some of his songs are even in the hymn books today. And basically, hey, I got all of those attributes from my dad, business aspect, I got the attributes as it relates to the musicianship just from my dad, and then my nephews, they play professionally as well. So my nephews both play drums professionally. They live in LA. One of my nephews play drums for LMA, and my other nephew play drums for Khalid. So, they tour all over the world now, even today, doing the same thing. And they've played on all the TV shows and the whole 9 yards. So I taught them how to play drums, and it pretty much, they say the fruit don't fall too far from the tree. So.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Lots of fires going at the same time, but like exciting things and fun things to keep you busy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm a songwriter musician as well, so that's exciting. I didn't realize before we started talking that you also do that.
Oh,
well.
wow.
So
that's what's up. Good.
That's wonderful.
Okay. What do you play?
I play guitar and piano, but my main is singing. But yeah, songwriter, so kind of more folk acoustic stuff. But
okay.
But yeah. So you say you play keys?
Good.
Is that it?
That's good. Oh, yeah. I play keyboard. I play organ. And I play drums. I prefer the drums, but I pretty much play the piano and keys and the drums evenly, if you will. I just prefer to play the drums. I feel like I can express myself better. You know what I'm
Oh,
saying?
nice. Yeah,
And
yeah.
then songwriter. So I have my songs on quite a few gospel records, and I actually have my own record label right now too. It's called LJ Music Group, and
Okay.
I'm working on getting a lot of artists and signing a lot of artists and everything. So some pretty big things that's coming up.
That's exciting. Can you say the name of it again? It kind of cut out a little bit.
LJ Music Group.
Awesome. Wow. Here I was thinking we were going to be talking mostly barber and cuts and music too. That's wonderful. Awesome.
Oh yeah, I got a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah. Yeah. You said that you do a lot of celebrity cuts, like sports folks and all kinds of things. What led you to be able to get into that world?
So basically, I pretty much I kind of aim for the moon and shoot for the stars and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So even starting off as a teenager, I had the opportunity. I lived in a suburb where there were some professional football players that lived in my suburb, and they heard about me. And then one of my cousins is a professional. He was a professional basketball player, so I was cutting his hair. And then in the music industry, by me doing that professionally so early on, I had the opportunity to basically cut a lot of the people in the music industry. And, people just kind of started throwing my name around, and I built up a reputation in that way, and not only am I a nice
Mm-hmm.
person, I think, but, I'm like a really, 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 really good barber. So, just kind of that mixed together just really made people want to come and get my services and everything.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, word of mouth doesn't take long when you've got
Yeah.
the skills to back it up. That's for sure.
Oh, yeah. Not at all. Not at all.
Mm-hmm. So let's see here. Was your mom a stay-at-home mom, or did she have a career as well, doing it outside of the home? Or
So my mom actually, she sings. So one of the songs my dad wrote that was really popular back in 1980 is a song that my mom actually sang, and they still play it to this day. But my mom, they got married young, so my mom pretty much worked with my dad at his restaurants and stuff like that, and
oh, sure.
at the church, her mother was the pastor, so that's pretty much what she did. She didn't work outside of our businesses, if you will, because she didn't need to. You know what I'm saying? So
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much what she did.
That makes sense. And I imagine owning restaurants and all that. It's a whole family affair. That takes a lot of hours, a lot of work.
Absolutely.
So that makes sense a lot. Yeah. You mentioned a song that your parents sang together. What song is that?
So my father wrote a song called "I Love Jesus More Today Than I Did on Yesterday." So if you Google the song "I Love Jesus," you will see Larry Roberts Sr. So my dad is a pastor now. He's actually a bishop. So, and my mom is the one who's leading that song. So if you YouTube that, you could actually find it and probably see my mom singing it live on a number of occasions. But that song was first recorded in 1980.
Mm.
Yeah.
Wow. That's wonderful. Yeah, we'll have to look that up. So you kind of, it sounds like you were self-taught in most of these things, or self-taught, or had the folks around to glean the information from. Did you, other than you went to barber school, correct? And then I guess you probably have to for that line of work, but any other education that you ended up doing?
Well, I taught myself how to cut hair first off, but then I went to barber school eventually just to kind of, I just really needed the credentials to go behind it. So, which now I'm licensed in over 22 states
Wow.
with my master license. But then as far as the keyboard and the drums, like I'm just musically inclined, if you will. So like I know how to read. I can read drum music because I actually did a couple plays. One play I did was Color Purple play. I toured with that for a couple years.
Oh, wow.
And then I actually did Dream Girl. So I did like 50 shows of Dream Girls, but I taught myself how to read drum music and then music on the piano. Like I just, so growing up in church, most of us church musicians, they just kind of throw us up there, and it's a gift that we have when we learn how to play from just being put to the task because nobody else was able to play or whatever. So, but by my dad, like my dad still has the same organ that he had since he was 13. He still has that same organ, B3, in the house. So I had the organ around, I had drums from when I was little. So I never really, like, I can hear anything and I can just start playing it for the most part, which, it can be a blessing and a curse because, again, like when I did the plays and I played drums, when you get with certain people, they just put the music out there. I'm like, okay, come on, 1, 2, 3. Like, hold on a minute, So
Yeah.
I wanted to make sure I could read so I can keep up with everything that was going on. So pretty much self-taught. I feel like I could play any instrument, because I'm musically sound like that. Like I can play the guitar, I can play the bass, I can play the horn, all that. But I don't prefer to play those things. I prefer the keyboards and the drums. That's what I do professionally and get paid to do.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with when folks know keyboard, that really translates to a lot of different instruments so that you can kind of just expand it.
Absolutely.
And when you learn by
Absolutely.
ear like that too. But yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's hard to sight read when you're not used to sight reading music. You have to kind of build up that. It's a whole nother skill. So that makes a lot of sense.
And then haircutting is an art and science. So because it's an art and science, I know how to draw very well. So with that being the case, when I started cutting hair, it was easy for me to pick up on how to make sure that I create and make the haircut and make people look good. So that's how I feel like I became so good at cutting hair.
Oh, okay.
To answer that question as far as being self-taught.
Sure. Yeah. So I never really thought about that. So the connection between drawing and hair cutting, how does that work?
Well, so, the lining that you have to do, I know you've seen designs and stuff in people's hair. So art, they teach you that in the book. It's an art and science. So when you do the line, it's kind of like it's an art when you're creating the lining around the front and around the sides and in the back. And when you're doing the designs and when you're doing the fade, it's like shading, it's graduating everything. So it's like using a color pencil or crayons, so to speak. So, when you shaping hair or when you cutting hair, it's an art, it's an art to it. You can't just cut it. You have to be artistic when you're doing it in order to make it look good. Like even though your hair is long, when you cut your hair, you can't just take the shears and just cut through it. You have to cut it on certain angles and, so on and so forth. So that's how it becomes an art and a science.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I never really thought about it. And that makes sense. When I've gotten my hair colored before, there's all the whole color palette and all that stuff. So that's my experience.
Right.
But it's definitely scientific, and it'd take me a while to figure that out. So, wow. You have a lot of things going on. Do you have anything musical happening currently? You have your record label that you're getting going, or that you've been doing and signing folks, you said. What else do you have going on?
Yeah, well, I still play full time. Like I play in church and, I can take on any other gig that I want to, whether it's playing organ or drums. I get calls for that stuff all the time. But I've never had to play my instrument to survive because I've always simultaneously cut hair and made a lot of money. And, I play music because I love to do it, but I've gotten paid a lot of money to play music. So, I can choose to take a gig or take a tour or not. I get calls for it all the time, but I just kind of pick and choose when I'm going to do it, if I'm going to do it and all of that. And then for my record company, I planned on, going real big with that. So I have some artists and stuff I have lined up once everything is finalized. And I'm going to, blow that up pretty big. And it's all genres of music. It's not just tailored to one type of music. It's going to be all genres of music. And I'm going to take it to the next level.
Yeah, that sounds exciting. It's nice to hear that you've had options. You've had that kind of balance, because so many musicians or artists have to kind of sacrifice something to be able to make it or to be able to just enjoy what they're doing. So that's nice to have that balance of both and to be able to enjoy both things that keep you rolling, both sides of it. It seems like.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's really great. You have barbershops. I read that you have them in multiple locations. So can you describe that a little bit?
So I actually have barber colleges. I actually made history by putting the first barber school inside of Cook County Jail here in Chicago. So I've been there for over 12 years now. So I guess I can start saying close to 13 years that I've been in Cook County Jail. And I'm also in 2 Illinois Department of Juvenile Justice locations where it's dealing with juvenile, male and female. So I'm in 2 of those locations. And I am the first accredited program inside of a state facility here in Illinois. And then my other locations, I have a location in Rockford, Illinois, 2 in Chicago, Illinois, and 1 in Joliet, Illinois. And I'm planning on expanding in other states. That's why I kind of proactively started getting my license. And I have them in over 22 states, my master license. And master license basically differentiates from a regular barber's license. The master license is an instructor's license, and it pretty much trumps the barber's license. So it'll give me range to be able to teach class or, open up a school without having to use another instructor's name or license number, things to that degree. So that's pretty much what I'm doing. And then as far as barbershops, I have a barbershop inside of Walmart, a full service salon inside of Walmart, and I'm actually preparing to open up in another Walmart on next month. And I've also been awarded the opportunity to open up in multiple other Walmarts. So that's pretty exciting for me.
That is exciting. Actually. Yeah, that's massive. What inspired you to open up the colleges in the jail and then in the juvenile justice facilities?
So, Chicago is probably one of the biggest hubs for, crime and all of those things. And, I have locations in a couple of areas where I've seen it and I've been around it. And the barbershop is kind of where everybody comes to. So, you hear people's stories. You have a lot of people who they want to change their lives and they want to do something different with their lives, but they're not able to because they have criminal backgrounds that won't stop haunting them. So I figured that if I would go inside the jail, so they can't get a good job because of their, criminal background. So I figured that if I would go inside of the jail and, get them their credentials, once they get out, then they can go straight to work. But I can also employ them inside of my, locations such as Walmart. So if they need to finish school when they get out, they can come finish at one of my locations on the outside. And we've also we're the only barber school who has student housing. So, we try and deal with homelessness. I have a non-for-profit where we deal with mentoring and life skills and mental health and substance abuse because I often talk about gift and character, which I'm going to mention every time I have any type of conversation. And it pretty much just revolves around you can't allow your gift to take you someplace that your character can't handle. So another thing I realize is that even with giving training to people inside of the jails and the juvenile detention centers, basically their character hasn't aligned with their gift. So if you just let them come out with their gift only, then they'll screw it up because of the fact that they don't have the morals and values they need in order to house their character, if you will. So that's why I went inside the jails and the detention juvenile centers.
Wow. Yeah. And that's amazing. It sounds like a lot of positive things stemmed from that, being able to provide housing and continuing job opportunities after folks are released and that kind of thing. That's, I think more of that is needed across the country and probably the world, I imagine, but especially here, that's really admirable. Sounds like some amazing projects, and to be able to open more shops in more Walmart sounds like more opportunities for more folks.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. That's exciting. Are you able to, because you have so much going on, are you still able to be personally involved in the teaching at those colleges, or are you more just manning it from afar since you have so much happening?
So I used to teach full time in my schools and cut full time. I used to start at 4 a.m. in the morning cutting hair. When I first started, wouldn't get done sometimes till 11, 12 o'clock at night cutting. I said 25 to 38 heads a day, if you will. The most heads I ever cut in one day was 48 heads. I like to tell that story because, a lot of these new school barbers and this new generation, they don't want to work hard, but, I was making a lot of money back then when I was, 18, 19, 20 years old. So basically I had to stop cutting hair as much because, I become inundated with trying to grow my businesses from other aspects, and cutting hair was just not, I still cut hair when I can, but it's not the premise of where I'm going and what I'm doing. It helped me get where I'm going and where I am right now, but I had to cut down on that and come from behind the chair so I can do all of the other things that I'm doing. So needless to say, I go from school to school and, and do what I can when I need to do it, because I'm doing more things than just the barber schools. We're doing, outreach, and I'm in the jails and we just partnered with Chicago Sky, the WNBA basketball team. So they're the championship team of 2021. So we partner with them. So, we have a lot of marketing stuff going on with them. I have a clothing and shoe line that's coming out in the next month or two. That'll be coming out. So we'll be marketing that. And, I have a product line that I'm, partnering with someone with. So I just have a lot of things going on, and it it supersedes just standing behind a chair or, being locked up in one of my schools all day long. So, I go around and try and touch everybody, meaning that, I walk into school, I speak to everybody. I go and cut hair from time to time in different locations just so I can spend time with my students and my staff. We have weekly meetings. I have a pretty big staff. So, I do everything on a really, really professional level. We even have a creative ops team who, they do an amazing job with all of our social media and marketing and taking video and recordings and just pretty much making sure that we're in line, as far as the website's concerned. And the app, that's coming up really big right now. So I have people in different compartments and areas of the business who I give them their job. They handle that, and I stay out their way for the most part. And we work together as a team to make sure that we're accomplishing what we need to accomplish. So it's so much bigger than barber school. I'm teaching my students to become more than barbers and not just focus on being a barber. You have to be a business owner. Yeah, think out the box.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. With so many things going on, you must have an amazing team to help execute all these different aspects of what you have going on.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful. If you had one or two things to say to somebody that wanted to grow their business, because it sounds like you've done an amazing job doing that, what would you advise?
What would I advise somebody who's trying to grow their business is that if you don't love what you do, you have zero chance. And I say that often as well, because you have a lot of people that, it's like a get rich quick type situation.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just not the way this thing works. If you really don't love and enjoy what you do, then you'll get in it and you're not willing to go down with it, for lack of a better word. For me, when I didn't feel like it, I was at the barbershop cutting hair at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. When I didn't feel like it, I was cutting all of the heads that I was cutting, then leaving, going straight to do my gigs, on drums or keyboards. When I didn't feel like it, I had to take care of my daughter, when it was tough and when it was hard. Or if I didn't have anybody to babysit her when it was my time, with my turn, she had to be at work with me in her baby chair next to me. So, you definitely have to love what you do and you have to put your all into it. And just make sure that you're lining everything up right. Incorporate yourselves, do business correctly. Open up your bank accounts, get your tax numbers, pay your taxes, get insurance. Just do everything right. So that way, when it comes down to it, and when opportunity comes knocking at your door, you're prepared. That's why, like I say, I proactively got my license and stuff in other states because, I don't want an opportunity to come knocking and then I'm not prepared. So I'm setting myself up for, when somebody called my name, I can say, hey, here I am. I'm ready,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. That's great advice. So you have, is it one daughter or do you have more kids?
I have one daughter. My daughter is actually a celebrity certified chef. So she has her culinary degree and she has a hospitality degree.
Wow.
I'm actually in the process. Her mom and I and herself, we're opening her up a restaurant. So I taught her how to cook. I kind of cook and bake like a big mama, as we call it, in our parts. But yeah, I taught her how to cook and then she took it to a whole nother level. So she's cooked for like a gang of celebrities, and it's what she do. And it's time for her restaurant. So we're going to open her up a pretty big restaurant. And I think that it's going to be very successful. I started her out young with her credit and her business and her corporation and all of that stuff. So when the opportunity presented itself, she was ready. So, man, I'm proud of her, very proud of her. She was spoiled, but yet spoiled with responsibility. And she's really showing herself to be approved. So it's pretty exciting. And my daughter, she's an amazing chef. Her name is Emani Roberts, and her social media handle is Chef Emani Nicole. Just in case anybody out there want to check her out.
Perfect. Yeah, we'll mention that in our show notes too, so people can just click on that. That's exciting. Is the restaurant going to be in that same area, Chicago?
Yeah, it's going to be in Illinois. It's going to be like in Country Club Hills, but it's still Chicago. So
sure. Awesome.
Yeah, it's going to be mostly like brunch type food, but it's going to feature my dad's ribs. So, my dad don't have his restaurants anymore. So it's going to feature like a few of my dad's products. My father used to have this sauce in the stores like, Sam's and Walmart and Jewel's and Dominic. So we're going to kind of pop that back up again and, have his homemade sauce and ribs and barbecue chicken and hot links and stuff like that inside of my daughter's restaurant. So that's going to be pretty nice.
Yeah, that sounds really nice. Kind of continuing on the legacy. That's amazing. Wonderful. So you mentioned that your dad was a big influence as far as music and entrepreneurship and business and all these things. Who would you say, either him, you could talk more about him or anybody else, who's a big influence on your life or on your work or anything else?
I always speak about my dad being my hero. I watched my dad when I was growing up. So for the most part, I seen him get up and go to work every day and work hard and be a good father to his children and be a good husband and go to sleep for an hour, 2 hours and get back up and do it all over again sometimes. And he did what he needed to do. And watching him just afforded me the opportunity and gave me the mindset to say, hey, I need to do the same thing in order to get where it is I need to go. So, if number one, my dad is my hero and he's my biggest influencer, if I had to say. So
Wonderful. Did he grow up in Chicago as well?
yeah, my dad grew up in Chicago. Yes, he did.
And so you all kind of have stayed in the Chicago area. That sounds like a deep bond in that area. Do you have cousins and all that in that area as well?
Oh yeah, I have a lot of family members,
Yeah.
cousins. I have cousins who are, lawyers and people in the medical field. My wife she's a traveling nurse, so she's been a nurse for almost 20 years. I just recently got married, but yeah, a lot of family. Most of my family are here near Illinois. Of course, I have family outside of Chicago, Illinois, but most of my family is probably here, I would say.
Well, let's see. I don't want to keep you too long, but is there anything else that you would like to mention or that we forgot to chat about?
No, nothing else specifically. What I will say is that I'm just kind of one of those guys who do my best to try and do everything right to the best of my ability. I can't speak about gang banging and using drugs or smoking and drinking and things like that. I don't judge anybody who do, but I've never done those things. I just really, strive to be the best that I can be, not only as a human being, but, in business. I wrote a book called Suicide is Not the Answer. That's a whole nother thing. But, I kind of dealt with suicide at one point in my life, when I felt like just things weren't going how I felt like they should go. But it was just a typical, I didn't think that I was supposed to go through anything, because I did everything right, quote unquote. So, why am I going through that? But I'll speak about you have to go through in order to get to, but it's how you deal with what you go through that determines how you come out. And I would always speak that, but I didn't take heed to it myself until I matured a little bit more and understood that, how had God afforded me things when I was younger, I might have messed it up and became older and didn't have it anymore and would have been trying to, chase and get back what I lost because I didn't know how to handle it. So I actually have another book that's coming out in May. So that book is going to be pretty good. So I'm pretty excited about that as well. So I have a lot of stuff coming up. I'm working on reality shows and I aspire to do a lot of things, as you can see. You try to figure out how I keep up with it. But, it's having an amazing team that allows me just to keep going and to keep up with it. And I, have people in position who I trust that will, make sure that everything is going the way it needs to go.
Yeah, that's exactly what goes through my mind. Is how in the world do you keep up with everything? It has to be an amazing team.
Yeah. Staff.
Yeah, that's amazing. So I didn't realize that you had those books as well. So the one that you mentioned about suicide, when did you write that? And I can kind of understand what you meant about speaking things but not really taking heed until later, because sometimes it takes a while for even our own wisdom to sink in. When did you write that book?
I wrote that book probably about 6 years ago, I believe.
Okay.
6 years ago.
Yeah.
And I actually, I dealt with suicide like in 2007, I believe it was. And I was just, I would leave home every day and be excited and ecstatic about the day and making sure I fulfill all of my obligations, dressing good, driving good, smelling good. But then I would come home at the end of the day and be depressed. I would be balled up in darkness, in a ball of darkness and just be depressed because I feel like didn't nobody understand. I would call and reach out to people and people, they seemed to think that I was okay, but it was because of the way I presented myself. I was younger, but then, I went to not when I was younger, but it's the way I presented myself when I would be out. Like, nothing was wrong, but I would be transparent and let people know, hey, I'm going through, but nobody really believed it. But I went and, sought help. I went and sat down with a professional and we kind of, rewound the times and, went back to my childhood and into my adulthood and being that, and I know it's a whole nother subject, I could literally have you on this podcast for hours, but I know there's parts, but,
Yeah.
I got molested when I was a baby, and being molested as a baby just kind of caused me to, go into some areas of womanizing and just doing some things that, I would be angry and, I would fight a lot, not knowing where it came from because I didn't deal with it until I was older. So something that happened to me when I was a baby didn't really come to the surface until I was older. And I had to seek help to see like, why am I acting like this? And, and I didn't hurt anybody, if you will. At least I think that I didn't hurt anybody on purpose, which I'm sure that, there were some women who were hurt behind, my negligence in womanizing it, or me, just being angry and, taking, I guess, what was in me out on other people, when I would get angry. But I learned how to kind of process everything and deal with it as I got older, so to speak. So yeah, it was pretty interesting. So
Yeah. And so much of our outer world can be deceiving, especially when it seems like someone, I mean, you've kind of known what you wanted to do since so young, and you have all these different amazing things that you're doing, but there's still stuff behind that wall sometimes, and that's too bad that people, even though you're being transparent, and some people, I guess, just don't have a hard time understanding that reality, that sometimes even though things are perceived as totally fine, that they're not. But I'm glad that you were able to get the help that you needed. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing that. So you felt like going and talking with someone was the key to kind of unlocking what was going on with you in a way, or was there?
Yeah, a professional. Yeah, a professional, someone who specialized in counseling. And I think a lot of us don't want, especially with my ethnicity, a lot of us don't want to go and sit down and talk to a psychiatrist, if you will, because we think it's because, it don't mean you crazy. It just mean that you need somebody to talk to who, specialize in things and who know how to pinpoint, certain things and how to ask you questions and help you to kind of get through whatever period of your life that you're in. So yes, sitting down with them actually helped me in order to gauge and learn how to deal with things a little bit differently. Like, for instance, I think a lot. So sometimes if something come across my mind, that may be pressing or something that would get me down or anything like that, I kind of laugh out loud. You know what I'm saying? That's one of the things they taught me to do, just kind of laugh out loud to it, because that's my way of just kind of releasing or letting out, something that I might be, harboring or keeping inside. And that actually helped me as well. So it was a lot of things that they suggested that really helped me in order to kind of move past where I was and in order to be able to go forward in life.
Oh, okay. Yeah. The tools and everything. That I hadn't heard the laughing one before. That's a good one. I like that.
Oh, yeah.
The tools that professionals can give you are remarkable and amazing. And it's also amazing how, well, I guess, if you look at the science of it, I suppose it's not as surprising, but how much childhood events can affect us throughout our entire lives.
And it's not the type of laughing out loud where you sitting somewhere and you're like, oh, and it's not that type of laughing out loud. I want to make sure that you're not, confused on that. So, because people probably think like, man, this guy must be crazy, but it's not that. It's kind of one of them laughing out louds, like kind of like kind of,
just a small thing.
Like a little smirk or a small thing, pretty much. Instead of keeping in, it's like that's your way of just kind of like deflecting what could potentially hurt you or whatever. It's kind of like you think about it and you just kind of laugh about it just to kind of blow it off, so to speak. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because overthinking can lead to all kinds of other things.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I personally can get stuck in that. And for me, writing stuff, if I write it out, it's out of my brain. Not all the time, but a lot of times. So so that makes sense.
If you think about it, try laughing out loud, and then call me back and tell me if that works sometimes a little bit.
I'm going to give it a try. I like it. Because, our thoughts, I think I have for so long thought that our thoughts are, I don't know, you just kind of fall into the thinking that that's truth instead of it's just a thought, So that makes a lot of sense to kind of interrupt that.
Absolutely.
Interrupt that.
I like
flow.
that. Interrupt that. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. We could sit and talk for a long time about all the different things. I'd love to hear more about your nonprofit that you have going on, all the things, and talk more about music and all this. But I know that you have something you have to get to in a couple minutes. So, is there anything else that you would like to mention before we are all finished up for today?
No, that's about it. I really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak on your podcast. So
Absolutely.
I think it was good. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Well, yes, thank you very much. I appreciate you joining me on Take Notice and appreciate your time and look forward to seeing how things develop and grow for you and your daughter and your family. I look forward to checking out the song that you mentioned as well, so that your parents
Yes,
did.
ma'am. Thank you.
Wonderful. All right.
All right. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you for joining us for Take Notice, Amplifying Black Stories. Connect with us on social media. We are at Take Notice Podcast. You can also find us at www.takenoticepodcast.org. And if you're interested in being a guest, please reach out. You can email us at takenoticepodcast@gmail.com. Take Notice, Amplifying Black Stories is produced, hosted, and edited by Allison Preisinger-Heggins. Music by Version Big 5 featuring Darius Heggins. Thank you for being with us, and thank you for taking notice.
Hear them say